The Unseen Shadow, the Shondell Jackson Case. On a chilly Milwaukee evening, life changed forever for two families, tied by an invisible thread of tragedy. Shondell Jackson, just 18 years old, stood in the Milwaukee County Courthouse, his fate hanging in the balance. The boy who once roamed the streets with youthful invincibility was now a man, facing the stark reality of his choices. Jackson's story wasn't unique, yet it cut deeply. A university student, Nathan Potter, had stepped out of a bar that night, perhaps humming a tune, his mind likely on trivial matters, tomorrow's classes, or the warmth of his bed. Unbeknownst to him, Jackson and a friend lurked in the shadows, seeking an opportunity. They were hunting, not for sport, but for survival, or so they believed. When Jackson and his accomplice cornered Potter, they demanded what he didn't have: cash. The encounter, charged with desperation and fear, ended with a single, fatal gunshot. Nathan Potter, a promising 21-year-old, lay lifeless on the pavement. Jackson fled, crossing state lines to Mississippi, where he hoped the specter of his crime wouldn't follow. But justice has long arms, and sometimes it comes from within. Jackson's own uncle, wrestling with a conscience heavier than the family ties binding him, tipped off authorities. Shondell was arrested, a young man now burdened with a legacy of violence. In court, Jackson's demeanor told a tale of its own. He made gestures toward Potter's grieving family, gestures that seemed to mock their pain. As he was let out, he smiled a smile that twisted through the courtroom like a cruel wind. But his mother, a woman trapped in the intersection of love and disbelief, painted a different picture. When I saw it on the news, I cried, she told the court. I can't imagine what that mother is going through. My son is not a monster. Her words echoed in the silent chamber, clinging to the walls like an unspoken plea. And then came Jackson's voice, a tremble of regret. Apologize for my behaviors, he said. Please don't take my life from me. The judge's gavel was both sword and shield, bringing justice and finality. Life imprisonment without parole. The sentence sparked an outburst from Jackson, raw and unrestrained. His family erupted, one voice crying out to the victim's kin, their agony mirroring the pain they had caused. As Jackson's friend served a 12-year sentence for being the lookout, the courtroom grappled with an unanswerable question: who was Shondell Jackson? A monster, as the law concluded? Or a product of a broken system, doomed by choices and circumstances? For those who watched, the courtroom drama lingered, a haunting reminder of lives lost and futures shattered. In the end, both Nathan Potter and Shondell Jackson were claimed by that cold Milwaukee night, one to the grave, the other to a cell. And for those left behind, the scars etched deeper than any verdict ever could. The Price of $50, the Jennifer Mee tragedy. Once a household name for her peculiar, uncontrollable hiccups, Jennifer Mee's life seemed destined for fleeting fame and laughter. The nation had watched her teenage hiccup saga with a mix of curiosity and amusement. But years later, the headlines bearing her name told a story far darker, stripping away the veneer of innocence and leaving behind a haunting tale of choices, desperation, and betrayal. At 19, Jennifer Mee was no longer the bubbly teenager battling an unusual medical condition. She was standing in a Pinellas County courtroom, shackled by accusations of first-degree murder. Her transformation from the hiccup girl to an alleged mastermind of a deadly robbery stunned the nation, raising more questions than answers. It began with an online encounter, a meeting arranged in the shadowy corners of the internet. Jennifer lured a 22-year-old man to a vacant house, promising something that would never be delivered. Instead, her then-boyfriend Lamont Newton and another accomplice, Lauren Rafer, lay in wait, ready to pounce. The plan was straightforward: rob the man and escape into the night. But plans especially those born of desperation, rarely unfold cleanly. A gun was fired. The man died. And the reward for the trio? $50 blood money that could never justify the cost. When police closed in, Jennifer's bravado faltered. A recorded jail phone call captured her confession. A chilling blend of regret and detachment. "Who'd you kill?" her mother asked. Jennifer's reply was flat. "Nobody. But I set it all up. And it went wrong." The trial was swift and unrelenting. Prosecutors painted Jennifer as a cunning manipulator, a young woman who used her charm to orchestrate a fatal scheme. Her defense pleaded for understanding, arguing she hadn't pulled the trigger. But the jury saw through the cracks in her story. The verdict was unequivocal: guilty of first-degree murder. The sentencing was the final act in this grim drama. As Jennifer stood before the judge, the weight of her choices bore down on her. "I will adjudicate you guilty," the judge intoned, sentencing her to life in prison without parole. It was a punishment as irreversible as the life lost that fateful night. Her accomplices shared her fate, each receiving life sentences. But the public remained divided. Was Jennifer a cold-hearted schemer, or a troubled young woman ensnared by forces beyond her control? The truth, like so many details in this case, seemed to blur under the harsh light of scrutiny. For Jennifer, the transformation was complete. She was no longer the hiccup girl or a quirky internet sensation. She was inmate Jennifer Me, serving life behind bars for a crime that forever changed the lives of everyone involved. The irony was cruel: a girl once plagued by involuntary hiccups now condemned to a silence as eternal as her prison walls. And for those who watched the story unfold, it was a cautionary tale about the thin line between innocence and infamy. A line Jennifer Me crossed, leaving a trail of questions that may never find answers.